My name is Maria Clayton, and I am a senior manager at M&P. I am delighted to have the opportunity to address you for a few moments prior to today's webinar. M&P is a leading national accounting, tax, and business consulting firm. We proudly serve the responsive needs of our clients in the public, private, and non-for-profit sectors, and we are committed to helping our clients, teammates, and community adapt to evolving landscape. We are proud to support organizations like the Chamber of Commerce and a partnership that aligns with business spirit and amplifies our values of leadership, excellence, commitment to enhancing our communities of where we work and live. Thank you for taking part in this session, and I look forward to connecting with you at a future Chamber event.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the Chamber of Commerce for having me today to share this very important presentation for everyone, not just for entrepreneurs, but just for everyone that is looking to get some support for their mental health. But for the purpose of the work that the Chamber of Commerce does so beautifully with aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners like myself, we're going to focus on wellness and entrepreneurship, specifically for you folks with small businesses, and how you can prevent burnout prevention, which so beautifully says on the first slide. So burnout prevention and mental health tips for entrepreneurs like yourself and myself. And so really this work for me as a mental health advocate and also a serial entrepreneur is something that I identify as very proudly as I'm in my third business right now. This is this is a conversation that's really close to my heart. It's affected me in all of my journeys in the entrepreneurship realm, and I'm just blessed to be here today with you all to speak about how we can prevent burnout so you don't have to experience the things that I had to experience and learn kind of, by trial and error. Although sometimes, learning things that way when it comes to navigating tough times in our lives can be really helpful in terms of growth mindset. I think there are some things that we can really learn to navigate before the time comes and it's just really difficult to deal with. I hope that makes sense. And so when it comes to mental health, I think the conversation has been really loud and proud since COVID happened. But we do know that entrepreneurs and small business owners have suffered the most and are feeling intense challenges. And so that is why I've kind of made it my mission, not only as an entrepreneurship coach, which is the work that I currently do full time for the Canadian Mental Health Association, but also, as I mentioned, as a mental health advocate for the community and beyond. And so with all that work combined as an educator and an advocate, I put this presentation together that I'm going to walk you folks through today, just before the holidays, or if you're watching this in the new year or any other time throughout the year. This is going to be something that I hope is a toolbox for your wellness, for you, yourself, your family, your loved ones, and the community beyond that we live in. Because truly, my wellness is dependent on your wellness, and your wellness is directly related to my wellness. Yeah. So with that being said, as I always like to start off with any presentation, of course, I mentioned my name is Iman Graywal, and I am a mental health advocate and an educator and coach, entrepreneurship coach for the Canadian Mental Health Association, Waterloo, Wellington. And I also am a meditation and yoga teacher. That's part of one of the businesses that I've been able to launch recently. And so with that, I always like to start off with a little bit of a mindfulness moment before we get into some of the tips that I want to share with you today, some tools and some tips that I hope are going to be helpful. And so I'll just ask you to just, take a couple minutes with me to recognize how you've come to this webinar today. I know for me, I'm noticing that my back is a little stiff, so I'm going to just take a minute to relax. Take my own advice that I'm offering to you all today. It's just going to take a minute to just relax and be present. I'm going to maybe roll my shoulders up and down. That really helps me. I know when I'm about to do a presentation or, speak in front of, even a webinar where I can't even see the folks, I do get nervous. So my, shoulders will perk up to my ears. And when I give myself that, offering to just take a breath and bring your shoulders down, Iman. You're going to do great. So offering that to you folks too. Just notice where you're at. Notice how you came to this webinar today. Maybe this is the first time in your morning or your afternoon or evening that you're even, getting that offering to take a breath. Right? Maybe it's just been so go, go, go because a lot of us entrepreneurs and small business owners, we're kind of just working 24 hours, right? Yeah. So just take a minute, roll your shoulders, maybe even, take your neck side to side, and start to just notice your breath. Are you breathing from your diaphragm? Kind of like how if you have pets at home, you might see how your cats or your fur babies breathe. They're always breathing from their stomach. You could like really see it. So I know for me, I look at my fur baby and I'm like, am I breathing like that? Most of the time I'm not. So it's a nice reminder for me. He also just helps me relax. So that's always great. Yeah. So just noticing your breath and not, forcing it to be in any specific way. Just noticing where you're at. Maybe it's been being held in your neck or your chest a little too much and just, starting to kind of notice and maybe slow it down a little bit. Right. Yeah. And so as we notice, we're maybe starting to relax a little bit more, getting into this webinar with Iman. Maybe we're wondering, our thoughts are like, what is she going to share with me today that I probably already don't know? And I just don't have the time to, right? So yeah, just kind of, coming and giving yourself that time, even maybe take this time right now to just give some gratitude to yourself for investing in your wellness for this next 30 minutes. Okay, and maybe you want to send some gratitude out to the universe as well for giving you this day. We're able to wake up today and have breath. We so you know hurriedly go through our days every day, and our breath just comes so naturally to us. We often don't get the chance to just stop and say, "Wow, yeah, this breath that just comes so easily to me every day. This heart that's pumping." Maybe just giving some gratitude to your body for letting you show up today and be here and invest in your wellness. Okay. And so that being said, yeah, just hope that gave you a little moment to just check in with yourself. Just maybe hope you're feeling just even a little bit relaxed. Yeah. And just feeling a little bit more present from all of the things that you've been doing today. And that's brought you here with me in this webinar. And so thank you again to the Chamber of Commerce. They're doing great work in Cambridge here for you folks. I was lucky enough to be at their event a few weeks ago, and that was just really wonderful as well. So I'm going to get started with our presentation. So as you can see that this is the first slide, and of course the topic, as I mentioned, burnout prevention, mental health tips for entrepreneur by your host, which is me. We just took a minute to do some mindfulness. So thank you so much for taking part in that. And as you can see from the picture, on the left side, that's kind of how we always come into, spaces usually because we're doing many things, right? You're picking up your kids, you're going to work while you're, working on your side hustle, your small business. And on the right is where we kind of want to try to be, a little bit clear, seeing the sunset or the sunrise and just a little bit more clear. Okay, so thanks for taking part in that. I always like to start a presentation off with a quote, which kind of centers the whole conversation that we're going to have today. And so this quote here, as you can see, it says, "The power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present," by Eckhart Tolle. And if anyone is familiar with Eckhart Tolle's work, he's a spiritual teacher. You can find him all over YouTube, sharing lots of really amazing tips and tools for mindfulness, meditation, how to deal with depression, anxiety, how to let go of things that no longer serve us, and also how to take care of our biggest asset, which is our mind. He's also the author of best-selling novel Power of Now, so I'll leave you with that. And yeah, so, just mentioning that, as entrepreneurs, taking a weekend to unwind or taking some vacation days is not, it's meeting those deadlines and taking care of our mental health. It's not really something that's comes very easily to us, right? And so being an entrepreneur, it's difficult, and we do need to push forward through difficulties and learn how to navigate our way to where we want to be, right? But just like many things in life, not at the cost of our own health, right? And that's the conversation we want to have today. Yes, it's difficult, but we don't, our mental health shouldn't have to suffer just because it's difficult, right? And so we all know as entrepreneurs, like I mentioned in this room today, that when I say, building a business doesn't really have much structure for us, right? Like a 9 to 5 day job that, you can say folks maybe around you have, right? We don't actually ever really clock out at 40 hours or 35 hours, right? It's a painful truth, but we don't. We kind of just grind and go through our day 24 hours checking our emails and responding to clients because it's us, right? It's not just an organization that we can kind of clock out of. It's all dependent on us and everything that we've invested from our money and the dream that we're trying to make come true. It's a really big investment. So that's why we work so much, right? And so, like I mentioned here on the screen, no, we don't have vacation days, right? And what are those for? Those are actually for your mental health, right? Those are for you to like clock out and take a break, right? We all need that. We all need that, especially our brain. Our brain is not built to just go, 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 go. It needs time to just settle and even absorb. It's actually why we also sleep, and I'll get into that as well. It needs time to repair, it needs time to absorb, right? But as an entrepreneur, we don't have weekends. We don't have time to unwind. We don't have vacation days. Most of the time, we're trying to meet some deadlines, and so we don't have time to really take care of our mental health, right? Vacation days, like really what vacation days, right? Well, they aren't really built into our benefits package because we don't have one as entrepreneurs, right? And we also don't have sick days, like I mentioned on the screen here, and personal days, right? We don't actually have any days given to us, which is why we feel we can't take any days off. And so, like Rihanna, the boss of Fenty and world domination, we work, 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 right? Because we're building our dream and there really is no dream team to rely on, especially when you're first starting out, right? So, what does an entrepreneur's work week really look like? Well, most of us are working 18-hour days, not 9 to 5, right? More like 95 hours a week, right? There is already immense stress, right? That's caused by starting a business for any individual, which shakes our self-belief to the core in general, which is why being an entrepreneur comes with high risk, right? Throw in the latest obstacle, that is the ongoing lasting effects of the COVID pandemic, inflation. Gosh, there's so many things, right, friends? And things have just gotten worse, right? And, for us entrepreneurs, according to concerning statistics, like I mentioned here on the screen, reported by the Business Development Bank of Canada, the BDC, a financial institution that I'm not sure if most folks are familiar with, but they're dedicated to the growth of businesses and entrepreneurs. So BDC actually reported that more than 72% of entrepreneurs are seeking mental health support more than once a week due to ongoing uncertainty brought on by the lasting effects of the COVID pandemic. Now, that's a really high number, right, friends? That's a really high number. And it's only getting higher because the understanding, again, which I'm offering today through these webinars and the chamber, the work that they're doing, and other mental health organizations like the CMHA, working with small businesses, there's just not enough. So we have to, look for more. We have to try to advocate for more for ourselves, and we have to share more information, right? Especially if we've been through the struggle. I think we can all be advocates when it comes to this topic. Yeah. And so, I wanted to really shed some light here as a person of color myself. I identify as that the cases are even higher, in terms of mental health challenges. And, the risk is even higher in certain groups, including Black owned businesses, Black women, folks who identify as women, and really all visible minorities, young entrepreneurs, marginalized groups like the trans community and the LGBTQ plus community, and those who have partially or have not been able to resume business due to the ongoing impact of COVID, like I mentioned before. It's had an immense effect on cash flow and your mental health, your biggest asset, right? I go back to the mind being our biggest asset because really, without my mind working, right, or feeling healthy, there is no health, right? Without my mental health, there is no health. So entrepreneurs are more than 50% more likely also through these studies that I've shared, BDC and other studies that are done, 50% more likely to develop a mental health condition if they are not aware of the signs and the symptoms. And many of us, friends, like we just don't know what the signs and symptoms are. Like, can we agree on that? Like, in our cultures, in our communities, it's not something that's been talked about like our physical health, right? Like, go to the gym, work out, lose, some pounds, and all of this emphasis has been put on our bodies, but really our mind determines our physical health. Because if my mind is telling me that I can do this, then I can do this, right? So really, it should be the other way around, right? It should be my mental health first and learning. We should be learning about that from our doctors and how to take care of it, because that's how we can take care of our physical health. But unfortunately, the conversation has been, it's been a stigmatized topic, right? That we're trying to destigmatize here and say, this doesn't make any sense, friends, right? We should be talking about our mental health, because if my mental health isn't, if I'm not feeling good, how am I going to go to the gym, right? How am I going to eat a wholesome food? How am I going to pick the best things for me if I'm not feeling good, right? So unlearning that is where we want to have these conversations and say, if we're 50% more likely to develop something, if we just don't know the signs and symptoms, then we need to know the signs and symptoms, right? And so today it's crucial to any and all entrepreneur success, and everybody, right? We're, like I said, not just entrepreneurship, right? But it's just everybody, our loved ones, everybody's success, right? Especially those folks, again, who identify with groups that I mentioned above, right? And then again, why, just to mention, why are these groups that I mentioned, marginalized groups and women of color and women in general more affected by not having a sound mental health system built? Well, because the mental health system actually, it was built from a white male perspective. There is a gender irrelevancy that's happening here that we're seeing. There is no, a system that's built for women, right? So that's first problem right there. And then when we start to throw in the cultural competencies, it just gets even more challenging for us folks to access what we need for our individuality, right? And so certainly not culturally relevant, like I mentioned, not gender relevant, for a person of color, unique for our unique experience. And then that's why we want to emphasize how great it is for organizations like this, the Chamber of Commerce in Cambridge, who is shedding a light on the importance of mental health conversations for us to have, right? There's also a lot of other organizations that I want to mention. Just a shout out to Rise, risehelps.ca. If you want to know more about them, please log on. I'm a facilitator there as well, and they also offer high level entrepreneurship courses, my friends, for you to know where to start with your business, all the way from like ideation to what it looks like to build that business from a cash flow perspective, understanding who your customer segments are, your customer avatars, like who are you targeting, what type of marketing, social media. Like, we walk you through everything. We walk you through business plans, how to create a business plan, how to look at a business canvas model, so many different elements to creating this business that's just not been out there. But risehelps.ca, you can check them out for their programs. They offer these 8-week courses, which are free, and you also get a startup grant for about $500. Again, shout out to Rise, $500 just for taking these courses with us that give you all the tools that you need to learn to start a business. And the focus, again, I just wanted to say, is on folks that are experiencing mental health challenges and also substance use challenges. So pretty amazing, right? So we have the Chamber of Commerce, we have Rise, we have the Canadian Mental Health Associations, 3 organizations, and there's so many more. There's Black Excellence for Women is a great organization as well. All of these organizations are focusing on our biggest asset, our mind, and our entrepreneurship journey, and how that's linked, and really important to link those two together in terms of our success. Pretty amazing, right? And so just going back to this article here, if you'd like to learn more about the challenges that I've chatted about in the above groups, that really, this article here, how entrepreneurs of color pivoted during COVID-19, it's in the Times Magazine. It really highlighted how BIPOC entrepreneurs are facing so many challenges but still taking time to give back, which is really beautiful, which just reminds me of how resilient we folks really are. Okay, so how do we take care of ourselves? I know there's a lot of statistics being thrown out, right? There's a lot of like, oh, these numbers are really high. And sometimes that can feel overwhelming, right? But the reason I start with that is to, we don't usually have this information given to us, right? We don't usually have the conversation on how much of an challenge this is in our community and beyond, how high the rates are for folks that are accessing mental health resources, right? And why we need resources like this, these webinars, right? So that being said, how do we take care of ourselves, right? So let's get into that. How do we take care of ourselves in challenging times if we haven't been taught how to? And so just going back to culture again, right? Just want to touch on that, right? I know as a South Asian woman and as someone who identifies as a woman, self-care is so foreign to me. It's not something that I was taught at all, if anything, at all, right? I'm still getting used to it myself, being an advocate for the last decade, unlearning my cultural beliefs and values that I was taught and something that I love so much, my culture, my identity, but unlearning this problematic aspect of my culture, right? It's been really hard. So, giving ourselves some grace to say, okay, I got to unpack some of this stuff that's really huge here, right? And so promoting this work and trying to live by it for myself, I say as a South Asian woman, when my culture says it's wrong for me as a woman, or that my value and importance is only tied to me working myself really into the ground, right? It's a really hard thing to unlearn. But luckily, I have the knowledge, I'm equipping myself with it, and some from having experienced the dark side of burnout myself, which I don't really wish for anyone. Like, I don't wish that for you, right? And that's why I'm here talking to you about it today. And so for me to help others so they don't have to, you folks don't have to suffer like I did, for me to share information like I am here today with you all, life-saving information. I wish someone had told me as a young entrepreneur. My hope is that something will resonate with you all here today in this webinar, some of the information that I share here today, and you'll think to yourself that, it's time for me to make a change. It's time for me to reach out for help, talk to a therapist, talk to my doctor, and that you're not alone, that I've been there with you and many other folks have been there with you, and accessing help when you're, in the trenches. I'm in the trenches with you, and accessing help will really help you rise out of the challenges that you're facing. And the challenges will come, right? Life is that ebb and flow, right? It's the waves. But how long we stay in those waves, right? How long we stay in the low is where we want to start to recognize, like, oh, I'm not coming up. I need some help coming up, right? And everybody needs help. Everybody needs community. Everybody needs support. So don't be, beating up yourself or being hard on yourself as to like, why can't I push through this? Well, sometimes your cup just gets way too full and you need to access help, right? And so some of those things I'm going to share here today, like what are the signs, what are the symptoms, and how you can access some help. And so again, when did it become such a big part of our entrepreneurial fabric, really, to work until we can't, like burnout, right? And so I wanted to start off with this quote here again. And when we go into that conversation, it's like, how did it start? When did it become a problem? So Steve Jobs, the most celebrated entrepreneur of our time, says, I'm convinced here, he says, right? I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance, right? And so when I read this quote from Mr. Steve Jobs, whom I really look up to his work, and I know lots of us entrepreneurs are like, this man made amazing things for us, right? It really stuck out to me, the word perseverance that he used here in this quote, right? And it stuck out to me because describes what separates the successful ones from the non-successful ones. Okay, so when we look at the word perseverance, right, it means persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Okay, so now I don't think Mr. Jobs was telling us aspiring entrepreneurs to just like persevere through the breakdowns, like push through those difficult times no matter what, at what cost. No, I don't think he was saying that, right? But the messaging I say for me and for a lot of us, right, entrepreneurs, is that go 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 mentality to get ahead. And definitely most of us have absorbed that in the way as to like which we can succeed as entrepreneurs, right? Just going back to like checking emails at all hours of the night and getting back to clients, like I'm going to lose this client, right? So that perseverance of like pushing through, like persisting despite any difficulty, that's not what he's saying, right? But it can be perceived in that way, right? So partly because until more recently, thanks to incredible entrepreneurial readiness courses, like I mentioned before, and education offered around self-care of entrepreneurs, like Rise Helps and the CMHA Waterloo Wellington, there haven't been many accessible resources and conversations around, what things like this mean and how it's been embedded in our psyche to just persevere, go, 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 no matter how difficult, right? And so But like I said, thankfully now the emphasis on burnout prevention is starting to take, a high consideration in conversations in the entrepreneurship world because we're seeing more mental health challenges. Unfortunately, it had to, kind of hit that point, kind of have that tipping point, right, for us to go back and reassess. And we're having that time right now, and thankfully we're having these conversations so we don't stay in that stuck period. So there isn't a university course or a college course that you can take when you're first starting out as an entrepreneur. So again, there's a lot of guessing, trial and error, which leaves a lot of room for confusion and fear of losing what you're putting into, something so precious like your time and effort. So some of us, will work 2 to 3 jobs, again, working ourselves into the ground and really, pushing through those really, really difficult times when we just, we need some rest, we need to reset, we need to just like recharge, but we don't, because we think this is how I'm going to build my dream, right? That's the, that hustle grind mentality. So yes, being an entrepreneur is difficult, and we do need to push forward, like I mentioned before, through difficulties and learn how to navigate our way to where we want to be. But just like many things, in life, not at the cost of our health. Absolutely not, right? Not at the cost of our mental health. So how do we learn to put into, a practice, a healthy work-life balance for ourselves that I'm sharing here today? I want to share here today, right? After someone like myself who has experienced burnout, right? I'm a burnout survival expert right now coming to you. So how did someone like me incorporate those healthy habits and functions of working and approaching my business and, my 3 jobs and all of that, that kind of takes place for us to get to that successful point? Well, I think it starts by, first of all, having that self compassion and awareness, right? That self awareness of yourself that I'm struggling. Something needs to change, right? And it starts with you, is what I'm saying, right? At the core, it starts with us recognizing that there's something wrong. There's something that is challenging for me to address before I can move forward, right? Or else it's not gonna let me move forward, right? And this dream that I'm trying to achieve is way too important to me. Actually, I'm way too important to me. So you first. We got to care for ourselves first, right, friends? No dream, no job, nothing can be more important than this right here, than this, right? Our mental health, our biggest asset, right? So it starts by taking matters into our own hands, and only you can make a change towards a healthier you, right? So, like our beloved poet and artist, celebrated legendary Angelou. Maya Angelou says, "Nothing will work unless you do." And I can't tell you, friends, like I have this quote everywhere, all over my phone, all over my computer, and I look at it every day. Nothing will work unless you do. What does that mean, right? Well, it means really that, the message here is that, nothing, how can anything work, right? If you don't. So why wait until burnout? Why? Let's make that change now so your dream can flourish. If I don't work, then my dream's not going to flourish, right? And so you can live the life you deserve if you are taking the steps to recognize when the times are challenging and you need to take a break, right? So if you don't know your own, time to like step back, your own worth, then how will someone else know, right? How will this business move forward? How will you present yourself as someone who is, putting all this incredible blood, sweat, and tears into this beautiful dream that you're trying to accomplish if you're not putting that back into yourself, right? Everything starts with us, right? It starts with us, really. Like how I feel about myself is how I'm going to approach any situation, right? Any relationship, any business. I know we're talking about business today, but it's really like all encompassing, right? How I feel about myself, how I take care of myself, how I'm compassionate to myself, how I, move through difficult times in a healthy way by taking care of myself and knowing when to, take a break to recharge. That's how I'm going to show up with everything in my life. And that's how I'm going to succeed, really, right? I am also wanting to share that I am a high achiever, and I know that some of my best work gets done under pressure. So I'm not here to say don't work hard and take a let's just stop. That's not what I'm saying. Working hard is in the very fabric of us entrepreneurs, right? It's in our DNA, and I wouldn't want to be any other way. I love that I like do my best work under pressure, but taking care of yourself after meeting those deadlines instead of jumping into the next one, right? Knowing when you have reached that tipping point and you need to just like take a break, is what I'm sharing with you today. So yeah, work hard, play hard, but also, rest and play. Make that just as hard as you work, if not more, because that rest and play will inspire you to be a better, business owner. It'll just give you so much time for exploration in terms of being creative. And that's what us entrepreneurs really are. We're creatives. We're doing things that are outside of the box. So I'll get more into that. But again, just saying, time, you need time for inspiration, and that time only can happen if you take a vacation or take some time off, right? You need time for exploration, new ideas to percolate in that beautiful creative mind. So work smarter, not harder. Okay, smarter. So when I finally learned, that my mental health was suffering, like I mentioned before, it was a, direct result of neglecting my self-care. And I also want to share that it was at the peak of my career that I experienced burnout and hospitalization for the first time, and was given my first time I was given a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, and CPSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And all of these things, were a little bit of a combination of my childhood and some of the traumas that I faced then, which also made me a very resilient person. So I wouldn't trade any of that. And I know all of us have experienced, some challenges in our childhood or our adult life that we're working through that causes us trauma. But, again, neglecting that part of myself I'm sharing today, right, was a direct result of me having experienced burnout and ending up in a hospital at the peak of my career. And, a lot of people talk about experiencing burnout as business owners, or, at other times in their life when they're not doing so well in terms of work or business. But for me, I'm sharing today that it happened at the peak. It happened when I was doing really well. So, understanding that it can happen at any time and that we're all at risk is really important, as a takeaway today. And so it's why I so passionately teach what I teach. It's why I speak on my personal lived experience, because again, I don't want anyone to experience what I did, and I want you to be able to achieve your dreams. We're all here to achieve our dreams. We all deserve to live our best lives. And so why aren't we given the tools and knowledge to take care of the part of ourselves that's going to help us move to that point in our lives? Well, today, some of it may resonate with you and help you move towards that in a healthier way. So let's talk about some of the signs of entrepreneurial burnout, which is, the topic at hand. And so I wanted to start off with neglecting self-care, basic human needs. And I broke it into 3 here, as you can see: lack of sleep, lack of healthy eating, and lack of social interaction. And I broke it down into these 3 because these are the top 3 that we keep seeing in the research and in the mental health space, and especially with entrepreneurs. These are the 3 things that go first. And these are the things that lead to more serious mental health challenges. So lack of sleep. Sleep is usually the first thing we entrepreneurs tend to sacrifice among many other sacrifices that we make, right? And this can happen as a result of working long hours as a passionate and driven entrepreneur like you all are. But your sleep is essential, my friends. It's essential to you being alive. And like I had mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, it's the time that everything is going to process. Your organs need to rejuvenate, to recover your, all of the things that you've learned throughout the day. It's all going to, absorb into that beautiful brain of yours. It happens during sleep, right? That absorption, that transformation, it happens during sleep. So we need sleep. So you can't sacrifice your sleep, right? Sleeping, so napping, some folks think, or extra time to sleep on the weekend. Oh, I'll catch up on the weekend. Well, actually, no. Scientifically proven, your body, your mind, the sleep doctor, Michael J. Bruce, you actually can't sleep. There's no sleep debt. I think maybe some folks might have heard of that. There's no such thing. You can't catch up to sleep. Once you've lost it, you've lost it. And you've lost some essential, health related factors that are going to contribute to a healthier life. Yeah. So again, you are at higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease, heart failure, stroke, and most of all, lack of sleep interferes with healthy immune function. It also causes depression, hypertension, and the list goes on. So lots to think about here when it comes to sacrificing sleep, right? So what's the prevention? You're like, Iman, yeah, you're talking about all this, but like as entrepreneurs, like we got so much going on in our minds. How do we prevent this? I mean, there's no one way, fix all. We're all unique individuals. So trial and error, like finding what works for you is where you need to put the work in, right? Prioritizing sleep, I can say, by dedicating yourself to a sleep wake schedule, like a routine, some sort of, again, sleep wake schedule, meaning like you sleep at the same time and you wake up at the same time every day. Easier said than done as entrepreneurs and folks that are trying to like also be social during the holidays. I know, but this is actually the way that you're going to have good sleep and build good sleep habits. Okay. And so aiming to have 6 to 8 hours a day of good sound sleep a night. Studies have shown that a sleep routine is essential to brain function, like I mentioned. But guess what it also does? It prevents old age brain diseases as well. Like if you know that this sleep schedule that I can incorporate is going to prevent Alzheimer's, why wouldn't we incorporate that today? But again, this isn't something we talk about, right? So again, understanding that if you haven't been given this information, it's okay. You're getting this information today, so make that change, right? Waking up and giving yourself some light exposure is also a really big thing. And why? Because the sun actually resets our circadian rhythm in our brains, and it tells us that it's morning. And then at nighttime, when it's dark, that's why they say, I'm sure folks have heard, like, start to dim the lights, get off technology, stop looking at your phone, that blue light, because your brain then actually understands that it's nighttime. Okay, so getting some light exposure in the morning, knowing it's time to, hustle and grind with that light exposure in the morning, you need that, right? Lower the lights at night, like I mentioned, get off technology an hour before. You need that brain to work, right? So give it the rest it needs. Okay, so next we have healthy eating, right? Lack of healthy eating in terms of, we're just grabbing things on the go, right? I mean, that can be a really big one right there, a big factor, right? But eating healthy is fuel. Fuel is essential to your mind and your body function, right? Your brain function. So just like a car with no gas, you really can't go far without food in your body and your gut getting adequate nutrients. So this plays a very important role in your overall functioning, right? Remember that gut feeling we talk about? Well, that is the gut. That's your second brain, right? So if your gut is literally responsible for telling you what's wrong and right? That uneasy feeling, then over time, lack of healthy eating can contribute to the risk of you not even making the right decisions. I know, right? It's a serious thing to understand. And again, not given this information sucks, but like you're learning it today, you're hearing it from me, doing your own research and speaking to your doctor, making some changes in how we're, in our diets and how we're consuming our food can really make a big difference. Getting on supplements, and I'll talk about prevention a little bit more. But I just also want to mention that, lack of healthy eating can also contribute to developing other serious illnesses like digestive disorders, IBS, and high blood pressure. So what's the prevention? Like I said, right? So being an entrepreneur, it's a busy lifestyle. Yes, we know. Grab, go, right? But meal planning on Sundays is something that I'm going to offer to you today, right? Having some healthy snacks in your car, having like a box of granola bars or nuts on hand to go, and not waiting until you're just so hungry that you go to a drive-through and get something that you're going to regret later. That's not going to make you feel good. It's not fuel, right? We know this. So making those, preventative choices before you hit that wall is where I'm putting some emphasis on you folks to try and do for yourself, right? Plan to fail or fail to plan. That's simple as it is, right? There's subscriptions out there for healthy meal planning that you can get sent to you 5 days a week, 7 days a week, 6 days a week, however it is, in your budget. Maybe it's not every day, but maybe it's those couple of days. I know for me, it's really helpful having a busy lifestyle to not always have to think about what I'm going to cook. I love cooking, but I'm not always home to cook. So how am I going to make those healthy choices? Maybe it's a subscription. Maybe I meal plan on Sunday for the whole week, and other ways, like I said, having those grab snacks, right? And then, just smoothies are also, I want to mention, always a great way, right? It's a quick and easy meal in the morning or even in the afternoon. So having those things lined up is essential for us. Like thinking about what we're going to do, like I said, plan to fail or fail to plan, right? Those are essential. And then, meal prepping in that an investment, right? It's all an investment into the most important thing, me, right? Ourselves. Without me, this business isn't going anywhere. So I have to invest in myself just like I'm investing in my business. I know. Start to think about it like that, right? And then the last one here on this one before we move on is lack of social interaction. And you might feel like, well, it's a lonely world, right? I mean, I got to do this work on my own. Yes, you're doing the work, you're hustling as an entrepreneur. But when I say lack of social interaction, as human beings, we are built to interact with each other. We are tribal beings, my friends. We are. It's our way of life. But mostly it is directly related to our health and wellness. Lack of social interaction is known to cause serious mental health conditions and anxiety, chronic stress, cognitive decline, and other physical ailments. Isolation can lead to reduced immune function and increased inflammation in the body. I was just speaking to a friend who is a psychology professor, and he was telling me that 60% of depression and anxiety and mental health conditions are directly contributed to loneliness. Yeah, 60% can be contributed to that. So even just like, I'm going to talk about how, like what if you're someone that lives alone, like myself, right? What if your family lives far, like myself? All these things that I can say. How do we then have social interaction? How do we make that something a part of our daily if that's, and a lot of us are still working remotely after COVID, right? So how do we prevent this, right? Set aside time to chat with your family and friends, like I FaceTime a lot with my family and friends. That's one thing. Other than that, making it much of a priority in your week to just like get out and be social in terms of joining, maybe a class at the gym. Maybe you're on a team, maybe you play like on a co-ed soccer. Maybe you are joining a walk club. Maybe you're joining a run club, right? We have to actively seek ways of being social. It's not just going to come to us, right? And especially if we know that this is going to cause cognitive decline, chronic stress, I need to make those changes. It starts with me. Everything we are discussing today, I know it all comes back to us, right? But again, my friends, we're seeing some amazing results when we can really make ourselves an investment. Volunteering is another way I want to say, I never thought of this before, but then when I started volunteering, I started to realize like, actually, I'm having a lot of fun when I go and volunteer with the board that I sit on, and they've become my friends. Right. So expanding your social circle that way is essential. Just being a part of events, volunteering at events. The Toronto International Film Festival in Toronto, every year in September has this huge call out for volunteers. There's organizations like the Cancer Society, like so many, or CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association. Oh my gosh, our volunteers get training, they have outings together. So there's a lot that you can do if you are someone that's living alone, away from your family, but you actively have to seek those ways of making those changes in your life. And connecting with others, it also lowers our risk of developing dementia. So huge factors, right? Huge factors to just being social and having fun. Yeah. So why are we not doing it? And, again, it's easier sometimes said than done because I'm just tired. I just want to, unplug this weekend and do nothing. But I'm telling you, it's directly related to your health, right? So let's get into I think this is like we're getting to the end of the presentation here. Constantly identifying, your self-worth with how much work you do and how much you get done. This is a big one, my friends. I'm sure you can all relate to this. Right? When you start to identify your entire existence based on your work, when you get those highs and lows from how much you can grind and get done, it directly impacts your self-worth because now it is tied to external factors, not having anything internal, right? So what do we mean by that? Externally, it's coming from the outside, right? So me feeling good about myself, it's nothing that I can do on the inside, which is really I have control, right? I can tell myself that I'm doing well, but from the outside, if things are not going so well for my business, and I'm like constantly like, oh, that's where I get my highs and lows from, then I guess it is out of my control, and that's a really scary place to be, isn't it? It being out of my control. So that's what we want to talk about in terms of, are you identifying your self-worth with that? Right? And so long-term effects of tying our self-worth to things that are out of our control, like I mentioned, right, lead to chronic depression, again, anxiety, and for some, it can even lead to suicidal thoughts. And so what's the prevention here? We want to talk about, learning to enjoy the process, right? And I know it's easier said than done, like, okay, I'm on learn to enjoy the process, but I've put all my money and all of my dreams and all my hopes and desires into this one thing. But really, again, looking at statistics shows that 9 out of 10 startup businesses fail in the first 3 years. 9 out of 10 in the first 3 years, right? So then tying your self-worth to something that will need to ebb and flow and is out of your control is really detrimental to your health and wellness, is it not? Yeah. So practicing the art of detachment can be something that we can start to, pay attention to. Practicing letting go. Like, I've done my best, I've put it out there, and it's in the universe's hands. I know this is hard. This isn't, again, something we've been taught, but this is where I go back to those mindfulness practices, the Eckhart Tolles of the world, the spiritual leaders, just something you can, if it's your faith, whatever you can put faith in, whatever you can kind of put that, I guess that kind of hope in, and saying that I've done my best and I believe in myself and this will happen at the right time, right? Both things serve us in every area of our lives when it comes to the detachment and letting go, what I'm referring to. When we see that life, can see that life as it is meant to be is happening and not something that is happening to us, then we can learn to be more present, mindful, calm, and results, truly can enjoy the process. So I'm just going to say that again, looking at life as it is happening the way it's meant to be, not something that's happening to me. Do you see the difference there? It's not something that's happening to me like, oh, right? It's happening as it meant to be. I know this is a hard thing, but I have to literally say this to myself every single day until it becomes my mantra, right? And yeah, so it's happening as it is meant to be, not happening to me, right? And so the last one here, before we can move on to how we're going to close and stay in touch, is irritability, right? A major sign of chronic stress when you find yourself being irritated by small things is knowing that I'm experiencing irritability, right? It's one thing when we're just like kind of irritated by like, oh, I can't find my car keys or something like that. But if we're having like angry outbursts that are out of our control, like rage, those are some intense mood reactions that are raising our cortisol levels to a point where we need to seek some help, right? We could be lashing out at our friends and family, and so listening to them, right? And understanding that this is a problem, this is a challenge, I'm going through something and I need to seek some help, okay? And again, irritability can lead to digestive issues, ulcers, IBS. It can even lead to irregular menstrual cycles for women and hormonal imbalance in both men and women. And this is all detrimental to one's health, right? And so again, prevention we want to talk about, right? I want to always leave you with something as to like how, right? How do we combat this? Well, practicing mindfulness can help us, as a whole, right? It can help center us. We can have more time to self-reflect when we are feeling irritable. We can listen to our friends and family that I'm sure can probably also attest to like, hey, yeah, you've been on edge lately. Like I know my friends and family have approached me in those times and said like, yeah, you're lashing out, you're short with me, and I know that this is a time that Iman needs to step back, reflect, and think like what's happening right now. I need to talk to my therapist more. I need to maybe reassess how much time I'm spending in those activities that are centering me. Like I need to listen, right? And so before we do things we regret, right, you want to stop and ask yourself like, why am I feeling like this? And then talking to a trusted friend, seeking professional help, always, like I say, a therapist, and then also your doctor who can help us unload and understand what the root cause of this feeling can be. And consider taking time off work, always, right? Consider taking time off, just your business to just reset, recharge your batteries, which is always, always helpful. Okay. I know I said I was at the last one, but I'm actually really at the last one now. So feeling empty inside. This is a big one for me because I often experience this even now, right? Like equipped with all this knowledge and information that I'm sharing with you folks today, it's really like this existential conversation that I'm constantly having with myself. Like, why am I here? What's my purpose? And so much of our purpose and who we are, again, is tied to like how much we achieve, both personally and professionally, right? And so those feeling of emptiness, I want to validate that this is something we all experience, right? So when an entrepreneurial journey starts to feel less exciting, if we're talking specifically about business, right? More work is done to try and fill that void because we've lost interest in things that made us happy before, right? Or we try engaging in distraction-based behaviors such as overeating, overworking, substance use even, and anything to numb the feeling of disconnection to the life purpose, right? There's no excitement, there's no inspiration. Emptiness and losing motivation poses challenges when moving through natural hurdles that come your way as an entrepreneur, right? So again, you need to be able to dust yourself off and try again, but emptiness can cause depression, which can lead to a lack of motivation or anything at all, causing your business to suffer. But we want to understand this is a serious thing, right? This is something that's experienced by a lot of folks personally and professionally. So how do we combat this, right? Well, feelings of emptiness are deeply rooted in one's lack of self-love and self-compassion. So again, it all comes back to you, me, right? How do I feel about myself? How do I love myself? How am I compassionate towards myself? And if these aren't things that you've been taught or you've learned, then seeking the ways to actively engage in activities, people, professional help, books, even exploring medication that's going to help you be more kind and loving towards yourself, right? Feelings of emptiness come from being disconnected to our purpose, really, or a sense of belonging. And in order to get to the depth of this lingering feeling, again, taking that time to refocus and rebalance yourself is essential. Taking time for self-care, which is essentially spending time with yourself and tending to your desires and understanding your desires. It's simple things that we can do to like really reconnect with ourselves. And again, reconnection, actively takes time, takes work every day. It could be as simple as like listening to a podcast about self-love. It could be as simple as having a bath and lighting some candles and just spending time with ourselves, or it can be bigger in terms of talking to your therapist, doctors, exploring bigger things, but finding that thing that works for you, those things that work for you. Is it meditation? Is it going to the gym? Is it spending more time with your friends that are going to help you actually reconnect to who you are and your purpose? Those are things that we have to spend time doing the work on and finding, like, how do I move through this, right? So I can get back to what's important, my business, right? My dreams, right? I'm here to fulfill my dreams. I want to fulfill my dreams, right? So I don't want these things holding me back. I want to move through them. Okay. And so after all is said and done, I just want to say that, you're all awesome, right? When it comes to just this fur baby here telling you, that you're all awesome, right? And I say that in a way that, all of us entrepreneurs, business owners, we're awesome, right? And we're a rare breed, and I really wouldn't want to be part of any other tribe or ecosystem than this one. We are creatives, we are special, we are creating opportunities for work for our communities. Like we are so special, and we are necessary, and we are needed, right? We want to feed our families, our communities. Like, we are doing these things, we're making this world a better place, building legacies for our future children and our fur babies. But waiting to learn how to take care of ourselves while we're on this unique journey is the message I want to bring home to you as I close, right? Getting to a point of burnout can risk us losing everything, right, friends? Everything we've worked so hard for. So, just taking that time to say to yourself, like some of these things that Iman has shared, like, where can I make a change today? Where can I find time to recharge? Maybe I need to reach out to a therapist. Maybe I need to speak to my doctor. Maybe I need to take that vacation that I've been putting off for 5 years. Something, right? Something has to give in order for me to get what I need, right? So here at the end, for all you beautiful humans, my tribe, my fellow entrepreneurs, I want to say you can do this, and only you can see that there is a need to slow down, to listen, to rest, to refresh, and just recharge your battery so you can get back to hustling and grinding like the amazing entrepreneurs that you all are meant to be, and on this journey, right? So you got this, and you are going to, achieve those dreams by taking care of yourselves. Is all really that simple message that I wanted to drive home with the help of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, whom I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to again for giving me the time to just sit here and chat to you folks about something I always want to chat about. How can I take better care of myself so I can achieve my dreams and build the life of my dreams? How? Because I deserve it. And so do you. Okay. So I just want to leave you with some resources. Of course, you can get in touch with me. You can email the chamber. I actually will share my email at the end of this as well, and my website. But here I just wanted to leave you with some organizations that are doing the work in order to support you, your mental health as entrepreneurs, and also help you achieve your dreams by equipping you with the beautiful knowledge that we didn't have many years ago, but we do now because we're important, and the work that we do is essential to the fabric of any community. So Rise Helps here. It's a national organization dedicated to empowering people with mental health challenges and addictions. And they help, they're a social and economic inclusion entrepreneurship organization. So please reach out to them and learn about their courses. And then second here, I have the Canadian Mental Health Association of Waterloo Wellington, which offers an entrepreneurship support program, which I oversee. So you could be working with me as your coach. So please do reach out. I've left the email at the bottom. And then lastly, I wanted to share Psychology Today is a website where you can find a therapist. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos. You can actually click and watch a video of a therapist before you want to contact them. Okay. I also just wanted to mention that the CMHA, Canadian Mental Health Association, also has a distress line, 24 hours, called Here 24/7, that you can contact at any time. If you just need to talk, you don't have to be in crisis necessarily. You can just call and talk to someone as well. Okay. Here's my contact. I'll leave you with my Instagram. It's Iman T. I share a lot of mental health work there and some other stuff as well, some fun stuff. So do connect with me there on social media. And then here's my personal email, iman.graywall@gmail.com. And then my website, imangraywall.com, where I share lots of information on how you can work with me to get some meditation coaching, or any other way that you want to just have a friendly conversation about all things wellness and the entrepreneurship world. Okay, thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, and I wish you all things when it comes to wellness and incredible mental health. And again, I just want to say you got this. Yeah, just enjoy this journey as much as you can while focusing on your mental health, because without mental health, there is no health. Thank you so much. Bye.